Good morning. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Happy Valentine's Day. We don't normally start the show this way. Normally, it's Matt Murphy starts his show this way, but we have a special title on the stream on Super Talk TV, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, where you can watch us. Mac, what is the title of today's episode? I'm channeling my Murphy. Did it sound right?
That's exactly right. This is how I start. And now I do the bell part where I read said creative title. And you can find this, by the way, Super Talk TV, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter.
Tell us the title.
Our website.
Tell us the title.
Roses are red, violets are blue. Don't trust the birds. They're watching you. Happy Valentine's Day from the Chris Hand Show.
This is like the most creative title that we're going to get. Don't get used to it.
Yeah, exactly.
This is not going to be an everyday thing, but it's something special for Valentine's Day.
For Valentine's Day. Yeah, we're not going to be pumping these out every day, no.
Well, there's no way that we can match what Bell does.
No, exactly, yeah.
We normally don't even attempt to try.
That's his show prep. I mean, he sits there. He gets
normally our titles consist of, it's Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly.
This day comes once a week. It's Wednesday.
Hey, we're on until noon. Show starts at 9.
Show starts at 9, Todd. That's usually what we do.
That's pretty much it.
But this is our fancy day.
Yeah, exactly. Spontaneous.
You do anything fun for your girlfriend for?
I got some stuff planned. Yeah, nothing big. We're saving some bigger stuff till this weekend. But yeah,
cool. But you know that she knows that the birds are watching.
Yes, yeah, of course. She's well aware.
You guys have had the conversation.
Yeah, I've had to fact check. Yeah.
That is the most important talk you can have with a significant other. The birds are watching. 615-737-9986. Todd is here, and he said, Mac, I promise I won't say anything about the chefs. Todd's here on the Super Text line. Dear texter, welcome at 615-737-9986. Did you see that Todd's here? He's already making jokes about the chefs.
Way to go, man.
This is your second day in a row wearing Chiefs gear.
That's correct.
How many days do you think you can go without wearing a repeat Chiefs?
I bet I can go a fat minute.
Okay. I want to do this.
Is that my challenge?
From now on, until you hit a double.
Yes. No repeats.
You need no repeats. You need to keep track of it.
So we're keeping track. So yesterday, that was my red zipper.
So you need to get like a Google Doc going and keep track of what
share
you
it with
wore.
you. Yes.
And like just catalog it every day. And I want to see how far we can go with you not wearing a repeat.
I'm so in.
And you can't buy new stuff.
No. It's just the stuff I got. Yep. Easy.
Will not count a Super Bowl championship shirt from this year.
Yeah, from this year. Yeah. I got last year's, a couple years ago. Yeah, we'll bring those out.
Yeah.
I'm in. I love it. I love it.
I want to see. I want to see how long you go. Mike H on the Super Text line says Tuesday. Not a fan. John said, "What birds? Do they exist?" We're still trying to get to the bottom of it.
Still figuring that out, John.
Still trying to figure this thing out. If anybody's going to figure it out, it is Mac. I promise you. It does feel like we're in this weird news cycle, doesn't it? Where we keep repeating everything. Thanks, Dan. Dan just popped in. He gave me something. It feels like we're in this weird news cycle where we're repeating everything over and over again. Like the big headlines last night are Tony Bobulinski is testifying. Tony Bobulinski has re-entered the chat. Then we hear this story from Michael Schellenberger about the CIA spying on Trump's campaign, spying on Trump's presidency. It's fascinating to me. And at the same time, in the House, the talk is of impeachments. Does it not feel like we have gone through a time warp and we're back like in the realm of 2020 again?
Yes, it's crazy.
Right?
It's so weird.
Chiefs win the Super Bowl. Beat the 49ers.
I'm down with that part.
Yeah, I know.
I'm in on that.
There's impeachments going on.
Yep.
Tony Bobulinski's in the chat. Hunter's laptop is in the chat.
Wow. That's so weird.
The CIA spying on the Trump campaign is back in the chat.
What is going on?
I feel like Bill Murray.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Does this not feel like Groundhog's Day? Biden can't remember anything. It's like, what? What? The news cycle dominated by Ukraine. It's like, oh, all right. The economy in shambles. People are getting fired everywhere. There's layoffs all over the place. Inflation. Just feels like we're doing this all again. So I want to start with the Michael Schellenberger story. The CIA, U.S. government started the Russia hoax. Listen, I know these are things that we know, but there's apparently new information. Michael Schellenberger is covering this. Michael Schellenberger, Matt Taibbi, independent journalists. They broke a lot of the Twitter file stuff. Smart guys. People take them serious. But this is back in the news. And it's fascinating to me. It really is. It's fascinating. So Michael Schellenberger released an article yesterday, and it documents how the Russia hoax was a CIA setup. And he joined Jesse Waters last night to talk about this, how the Russia collusion hoax was from the jump, from the absolute jump, organized by the CIA and the U.S. government. Here we go.
Brand new details about how Obama's CIA targeted Trump and started the entire Russia hoax. For years, we were told that tips from an Australian diplomat tipped off the FBI after a random conversation with Papadopoulos, a no-name 20-something. But according to new reporting by Michael Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi, the whole thing was a CIA setup. Former CIA director John Brennan identified 26 Trump associates to be targeted by the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance, and then those interactions were the targets and were targeted by the FBI as suspicious. And that's how the FBI launched the Russia collusion hoax. The details of this entire operation have been stored in a top secret binder in a secret room in Washington. Trump ordered the whole thing declassified, and now the rumor is that the binder might be missing.
All right, so let's break it down. New information is coming out. A lot of people say this is not new information. I mean, he talks about George Papadopoulos, and George tweeted last night, all of this is laid out from beginning to end in my bestseller, Deep State Target, How I Got Caught in the Crosshairs of the Plot to Bring Down President Trump. He says all roads lead to London and Rome, always did. So the gist of it is that the Five Eyes Network, which if you're unfamiliar, the Five Eyes Network is the U.S., the U.K., Canada, Australia, New Zealand. It's all these countries. We work together, and it's just a nice way to be able to spy on your own citizens, really. That's really what it is at the core. They say, you know, it's very mafioso type. It's like if I said, oh, gee, it'd be a shame if someone looked at Mac Maury's text messages. You catch my drift? I can't do it. I can't do it. He's my producer. But maybe I could get somebody from the zone to do it. That's really what this Five Eyes Network is. They do a lot of spying on their own citizens, and they skirt laws in their own country because they say, well, we didn't do it. Another country did it. So that's what Five Eyes is. That's Five Eyes. So the story was Australia just so happened to find George Papadopoulos in their crosshairs. But it's now being explained that, no, the CIA basically said, would be a shame if these 26 people on this list got surveilled. And they dropped it in the chat for Five Eyes. Australia got Papadopoulos. That started the Russia collusion hoax. It's fascinating. Serious allegations. Maybe I'm numb to the allegations because they're not exactly new. Like they were shocking to me years ago when I first heard them. But they're very serious. And Schellenberger, he says he has credible sources.
The story, as you mentioned, was that, we were just informed by foreign intelligence about this. Our sources tell us a very different story, which is that this was initiated by the U.S. government. It came from within the U.S. government's intelligence community, including the CIA, that they asked the so-called Five Eyes nations intelligence agencies, that's the other English-speaking nations, including Britain and Australia, to spy on 26 Trump associates, or at least they had a list of the 26 associates that were identified. This is new information. Some people have theorized about this and speculated about it. We feel very confident that our sources were in a position to know and are very credible in this report. And it's obviously a very serious allegation because this is illegal spying and it's illegal election interference.
Well, and it definitely was election interference. And honestly, it interfered with Trump's presidency for the first few years as well, as this all broke down. And you'll remember, I remember, as conservatives, it was like, well, let's wait and see what this looks like. Nobody called it fake news at first. It was kind of like a wait and see approach. We would hate if this was true. But it turned out to be completely fabricated. It handcuffed the Trump presidency, and it was built upon a lie. It was built upon a corrupt U.S. government operation. Shocker. There are new wrinkles to the story about an alleged binder that detailed everything. I'm going to give you the clip from Michael Schellenberger on the way about the binder. Plus, I'm also going to talk about why I just am so frustrated by this story. I really am. And if the allegations are true that there is a binder and someone that's very important has this binder, but they don't do anything with it, that's even more infuriating to me. We'll talk about it. Hang out with us. It's 9:21 on the Chris Hand Show on Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. The birds are watching. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Right now in Berry Hills, 65 southbound is stop and go between 440 and Harding Place. We've got a crash in Antioch that is blocking the right shoulder of 24 westbound at Haywood Lane. And in East Nashville, an accident blocking the right shoulder. Ellington Parkway southbound just past Broadmoor Drive. Got an active shooter situation in Washington, D.C. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin just addressed to NATO, and it might be harder to order food or catch a ride today. These stories and more at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. We're talking about this story that is, I guess, new, but not really new. Michael Schellenberger, with reports that the CIA, the U.S. government, the FBI, colluded with the Five Eyes network of spies, which, of course, is the Five Eyes is U.S., U.K., Australia, Canada, New Zealand. Why did we invite New Zealand? I don't know. So they like tagged along with Russia. It's like, what are you doing here? It's like, can I just stay? It's like, all right,
fine.
Like we would have been fine with Four Eyes. Like even Four Eyes would have made more sense. Like just in the
Yeah, of course.
You know?
Four eyes.
Yeah, it's like kind of funny. Anyway, New Zealand's there. We don't understand why. Nobody gets it. So the Five Eyes spied on the Trump campaign. These are stories that we all have heard, theories that we've all seen. It's shocking, but this is the new news. 4870 texted in, Obama expelled 35 Russian diplomats in December 2016 for election interference. This seeded the idea that there must be secret intel about Trump being a traitor. Media and senators followed the dog whistle, and as that narrative broke down, they didn't really care if it was false so long as it was somewhat working. And it did somewhat work. NBC News has that story of the Obama expelling the Russian diplomats. So it was always an op from the jump. Michael Schellenberger laid it all out. And he says that there is possibly new information as well.
The story, as you mentioned, was that, we were just informed by foreign intelligence about this. Our sources tell us a very different story, which is that this was initiated by the U.S. government. It came from within the U.S. government's intelligence community, including the CIA, that they asked the so-called Five Eyes nations intelligence agencies, that's the other English-speaking nations, including Britain and Australia, to spy on 26 Trump associates.
So they spied on him from the jump. He says there is new information, though. Apparently there was a declassified binder that had all the info. And he even says, was this binder the reason why Mar-a-Lago was raided?
There has been widespread speculation that this binder was the reason or a reason for the FBI raid of Mar-a-Lago, and we'll be discussing that tomorrow.
So apparently more information is going to be dropping today. We're going to be on top of this as best we can during my show. I know Murphy's going to be on top of this. Brian Wilson will be on top of this. It's so fascinating to me, though, that it's breaking news maybe tomorrow. If you have the info, why are you sitting on it? And that is one of my biggest frustrations. We'll talk about it after the news with Ken Weaver, which starts now.
"9:30 on the dot this Wednesday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes. And right now in Washington, D.C., three police officers have been shot by a man who's barricaded in a home on the city's southeast side. Several city blocks shut down. Schools in the area locked down. Moments ago at the NATO summit in Belgium.
Sorry I wasn't able to travel to Brussels this week. I look forward to bringing this contact group together in person soon.
U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin discharged from the hospital yesterday after he was hospitalized for a bladder issue, but still addressing NATO. He addressed Ukraine.
The countries of this contact group, almost 2 years later, are still united in common purpose.
And it might be harder to order food or catch a ride today. Thousands of rideshare drivers planning to strike over pay and working conditions. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, it's Chris Hand for my friends at USS, United Structural Systems. I'm still sort of new to WTN, but I'm not new to USS. Like you, I've heard their commercials for years here on Super Talk, and I have had the chance to sit down and meet these guys. And I got to tell you, they're exactly the people that everyone tells you they are. Honest, hardworking, good guys that live in the community and aren't going anywhere. Now, if you are noticing issues with your foundation, USS is the guys to call. If you have a sinkhole on your property, USS are the guys to call. If you need crawl space encapsulation, basement, or crawl space waterproofing, I'll say it again, USS are the guys to call. They've been doing it in Middle Tennessee since 1994, and they have 25,000 satisfied customers to back them up. They will come to your home, give you a free estimate, break down a custom solution for your home, and they won't leave until you're satisfied and the job is done. Plus, they'll give you a lifetime warranty that stays with your house. It doesn't leave when you leave. If you work with another guy in town, there's no guarantee that they're going to be around if you ever have a warranty issue. You don't have to worry about that with USS because, like I said, they've been doing it here in Middle Tennessee since 1994, and they aren't going anywhere. So if you have foundation issues, if you need waterproofing in your basement or crawl space, if you need crawl space encapsulation, call USS today, 615-488-7855. That's 615-488-7855. United Structural Systems. They're online, USSTN.com.
Everyone saying Russia, Russia, Russia. Fake news, no wonder no one trusts ya. The United Nations filled with suckers. The only journalist I trust is Tucker. Everyone saying Russia, Russia, Russia.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN 937. My name is Chris Hand. Russia, Russia, Russia. Back in the news. My name is, I said it already. Sorry, I'm all out of sorts because of Valentine's Day.
It's a big one.
It's the biggest holiday of the year.
Yeah, you got something big planned?
No, but I'll tell you what threw me off. Somebody sent me a tweet. Apparently, our Tennessee legislators are doing hashtag TNLEG Valentines, so Tennessee Legislator Valentines.
What? Okay.
I don't know why.
Yeah, interesting.
So Speaker Cameron Sexton jumped in. He said, "Roses are red, violets are blue. Love is a prison, and I deny bail for you."
Nice.
Is it? So somebody replied to him. I think this guy that replied is a Democrat. But he said, and I thought this was a pretty good burn. He said, "Roses are red, violets are blue. You deny bail for many because private prisons pay you." I don't know anything about Cameron Sexton, if he is or is not paid by private prisons, but I thought the joke was funny.
Yeah, it's a good joke. And it rhymed. Yeah.
And who likes private prisons? You know what I mean? I never understood the whole concept behind a private prison, because if it's privately owned and they're the guys deciding if you get out on parole, why would they let you out? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Make it make sense.
Yeah.
You know? And they're making license plates. Do they still make license plates? That's still
I have no idea.
Well, just for argument's sake, you're in there making license plates. You're making pennies a day. Why would they turn down the free labor?
It's true.
You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
So anyway, I thought my Birds Are Watching You one was much funnier.
It's way funnier.
Way funnier, right?
Way better.
Yeah. If you missed the title of the episode, I think it's up on Facebook and Twitter. Sometimes the titles don't switch. We don't know what's going on.
I have it on YouTube saying that it's our title, but who knows?
We don't know.
You can find us, though.
Very low on things that we're trying to deal with.
Exactly.
So we were talking about Michael Schellenberger and how the CIA is allegedly the ones that started the Russia collusion hoax. It feels like this is a story that we've heard many, many times before, but the news cycle is so weird today. It just feels like we're back in time. We're talking about the CIA and the FBI spying on Trump. We're talking about Tony Bobulinski, testifying and entering the chat via the Biden crime family. It's so awkward. It's so weird. On the Michael Schellenberger CIA, FBI spying on the Trump campaign, there is a new wrinkle to this. And Michael Schellenberger laid it out last night on Jesse Waters. It all is about a binder with information that allegedly Trump declassified and has. And apparently this binder breaks it all down. Michael Schellenberger says that this binder may have been why they raided the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago, which is fascinating because if they raided Mar-a-Lago to get this back, then you could say they raided Mar-a-Lago to cover up their crime.
There has been widespread speculation that this binder was the reason or a reason for the FBI raid of Mar-a-Lago, and we'll be discussing that tomorrow. But obviously, if this binder contains what we have been told that it contains, which may include raw intelligence, information showing that the U.S. government, the CIA and the intelligence community of the U.S. government, initiated the Russia collusion hoax, that it did not occur in the way that the official story, including the Durham investigation, had portrayed it, then that's extremely serious information. And it may be, if the FBI then went to go get it in order to continue the cover-up of this information, that obviously adds an even more dramatic wrinkle to this.
It is. It would be a more dramatic wrinkle. But it kind of bugs me. Because if people have this information and they're just sitting on this information, release the information. It seems so often They're like, oh, we knew about it for years. We had proof for years. And then you sit on it. It's like, I have information that will lead to the downfall of Hillary Clinton. Release it. If Trump is sitting on this information, put it out there, and let's see some accountability. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe it is so corrupt in these institutions that you have to wait for things to happen in a certain order. Maybe. But it blows my mind. If that's true, if Trump is sitting on this information, if the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago to find this binder, blows my mind. At the same time, all this is going down, Tony Bobulinski, a former Hunter Biden business associate, has re-entered the chat. He gave testimony yesterday, and it's significant because he was a Biden family business partner. And that's what he told the House impeachment inquiry yesterday. His testimony is significant because he met Joe Biden in the lobby of the Beverly Hilton Hotel in May of 2017 to discuss business with a CEFC, an entity closely linked to the Chinese Communist Party. So Bobulinski is the whistleblower who confirmed the infamous message about a stake of 10 held by H for the big guy, referring to Joe Biden. That's why Bobulinski is important. And if you remember, Tony Bobulinski talked about a lot of this years back with Tucker Carlson as we were in the lead up to the election. He quite literally said he thought Biden was probably compromised by China.
How does this constrain his ability to deal with China?
Are you asking for my personal opinion?
I'm asking for your opinion as someone who's worked with the Chinese.
So I think Joe Biden and the Biden family are compromised. Obviously, I've referenced that I held a Q clearance. You're briefed on compromise and, who you're able to talk with and deal and do business with. And I just don't see, given the history here and the facts, how Joe can't be influenced in some manner based on the history.
Based on the history, I can't see how he can't be influenced in some manner. That's what he said years ago. We look at it into the future through, with hindsight, and you see the way they clean up San Francisco for Xi Jinping, the way they put up Chinese flags for Xi Jinping. It's not a stretch to think Joe Biden would be compromised by China. It's not. Tony Bobulinski said a lot of interesting things in these interviews with Tucker. And his original statement that aired on Fox broke down why he was coming forward in the first place.
I'm involved in various successful businesses, both in this country and abroad. I'm making this statement to set the record straight about the involvement of the Biden family, Vice President Biden, his brother Jim Biden, and his son Hunter Biden in dealings with the Chinese. I have heard Joe Biden say that he's never discussed business with Hunter. That is false.
And that's been proven as false, again, with the benefit of hindsight. But these statements at the time were explosive.
I have firsthand knowledge about this because I directly dealt with the Biden family, including Joe Biden. I have also heard that Vice President Biden said on Tuesday that Senator Ron Johnson, the chair of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, should be ashamed for suggesting that Biden family sought to profit from their name. Well, here are the facts I know, and everything I'm saying is corroborated by emails, WhatsApp chats, agreements, documents, and other evidence. And the American people can judge for themselves.
Now, I find that interesting. Tony's going to be bringing receipts, or he brought receipts yesterday. And I think that that's huge because he gave his testimony under oath. He gave his testimony under oath yesterday. He says that he has the receipts. He said that he has the proof, and he's going to bring down the Biden crime family.
I brought, I guess, for record, 3 phones that spanned the years 2015 through 2018. These phones have never been held by anybody else besides myself. I was told this past Sunday by somebody who was also involved in this matter that if I went public this information, it would bury all of us, man.
The person he's talking about is Rob Walker. Rob Walker is another Biden associate who told him, if you go public with this, you'll bury all of us. And in the interviews with Tucker, he actually brought the phone recording of that.
If he doesn't come out on record, I am providing the fact.
Tony, you're just going to just bury all of us, man.
You're going to bury all of us, man. I hope he brings the goods. I really do. I think it's time that we see some accountability, but at the same time, it's like, is this just more copium? Is this, or hopium? Sorry. Are they just giving us little strings of hope to string us along? Are they just changing the news cycle so we're not talking about Biden's mental faculties? But Comer was on with Hannity last night, and he says that Bobulinski testified that he believes Joe Biden committed wrongdoing and continues to lie about his participation in the family business, which, of course, is influence peddling and schemes.
Well, we learned a lot, and Tony Bobulinski handled himself very well. I've never seen Democrats or anyone act worse in a deposition than they did. The Democrats couldn't handle the truth, and that's what Tony Bobulinski delivered today. He delivered the truth. He talked about Joe's involvement. He talked about the numerous times he talked to Joe Biden. He mentioned that Joe Biden thanked him for what he was doing with his brother and his son. So Joe Biden knew very well the role Tony Bobulinski was playing in the Biden orbit, and he talked about what CEFC was. And I think every American would be concerned if they could understand exactly what CEFC was trying to do. They were trying to implement their Belt and Road Initiative in the United States. Everything that we have bipartisan agreement on in Congress to prevent China from doing in the United States, CEFC was trying to acquire the services of the Bidens to be able to remove the barriers of entry into our market. So Joe Biden was working for the Chinese. He was the brand. Tony Bobulinski is the second person on record under oath to testify that Joe Biden was the brand.
Tony Bobulinski, the second person on record to testify that Joe Biden was the brand. Is the president compromised by the Chinese? It's beginning to feel like the receipts are there. It's beginning to feel like the House Oversight Committee is getting closer and closer to really cracking this thing wide open.
And what didn't he talk about? Millions and millions of dollars, and he mentioned all these other countries as well, and Joe's involvement, that he was directly involved in all of this in spite of what he told the American people as a candidate and as a president numerous times, that he never once spoke to his son, his brother, or anybody for that matter. Is that all true? Do we know how many millions at this point?
Well, we're well over 20 million that the Bidens have taken, well over 8 million from China. We found out today it was because of Joe Biden. They had no use in Hunter Biden. They certainly had no use in Jim Biden. They were paying for Joe Biden.
They were paying for Joe Biden. But you already knew that. Anybody that's been paying attention already knew this. This is why, the news cycle to me is so weird today. It's all this stuff that's like, oh, yeah, yep. Kind of figured that one out a few years ago. The wheels of justice, right? They turn slowly. That's what they tell me. It's 9:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, still got the crash in Antioch. It has 24 westbound at Haywood Lane. That is the right shoulder block there. Also in East Nashville, Ellington Parkway southbound, just past Broadmoor Drive. You got the right shoulder block there by a crash. We're following that active shooter situation in Washington, D.C. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin out of the hospital addressing NATO's summit today. Experts warning that e-cigarette use among middle schoolers is on the rise. And a story that took an investigator to figure out in the desert. We'll tell you about it at 10 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Gators in the desert. Are they there for the moat at the border wall? That's what the Democrats say we're doing, right?
That might be effective.
I wouldn't get in that water.
No, sir.
Not a good look. Not a good look. All right, I'm looking forward to your Gator story.
Yeah, it's entertaining.
All right, perfect. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris, and we're talking about Tony Bobulinski re-entering the chat. His re-enter the chat. He says Joe Biden was the enabler for foreign deals with China, and he testifies. He's Hunter's ex-business partner. He said that he sold his brand while being buffered by a complex scheme to maintain plausible deniability. He's a key impeachment witness. This is a major story. I can't wait to see what the House Oversight Committee reveals after all these interviews are done. Jim Biden's coming up soon. Hunter Biden's getting interviewed soon. Fascinating. We'll cover all that. Plus, we're seeing a bunch of texts about the fact that you're not allowed to have cold beer anymore in Tennessee. That's at least what one lawmaker wants to do. Mac pulled up the story. We're going to dive into this. But we've gotten multiple texts about that.
Yeah, no, it's been a hot topic this morning. So
people
no
are not
pun
happy.
Intended.
Yeah.
Hey, I didn't even mean to. That's awesome.
People are not happy. They're not. They don't want to cool their own beer.
No, what?
10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Ten o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. Right now in Washington, D.C., you got several city blocks blocked off. Schools are on lockdown. This is after 3 Metro D.C. cops were shot by a man barricaded in a home on the southeast side. Officers are going to survive, those that were shot. Police say this person's refusing to come out of a home, and when officers tried to get inside, there was a barrage of gunfire. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin out of the hospital after having to go back for a bladder issue, and he addressed NATO's summit remotely this morning, telling members his cancer prognosis remains excellent. Then he talked about Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
The Kremlin keeps on betting that we will all lose interest in Ukraine and that our support will flicker and fade. But I am more determined than ever, and I know that you are as well.
Prior to Secretary Austin, NATO Secretary Jens Stoltenberg announced that only 18 of the 31 NATO members will meet their financial obligations by the end of the year. Experts in this country warning that e-cigarette use among middle schoolers is rising, with a report from the CDC finding that more than 500,000 of these young students say they vape. Adding to the concern, experts say that disposable flavored vapes are most common among kids. They're illegal here in the U.S. and nearly exclusively smuggled in from China. Now to a story that took an investigator to figure out. Alex Stone has some of the 911 calls over what was in a pond at a park in Mesa, Arizona that turned out to not actually be a threat.
911 emergency.
When the 911 calls started coming into police, it seemed unbelievable.
I think there's an alligator.
Alligators aren't found in Mesa, Arizona, but callers said there was a big one in the water at Riverview Park.
It's kind of just sitting there, but we were all fishing, and it's going around.
It turns out, yes, there is an alligator, but it's made of styrofoam, and it was put there along with a fake crocodile and 2 hippos by the city to give turtles in the pond a place to climb onto and sunbathe.
That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
I haven't seen people this upset in a while. And it's not because Joe Biden's compromised by the Chinese. It's not because our southern border's wide open. We've gotten multiple text messages about this. I've gotten emails about this. I've had people tweeting me about this at Chris Hand on air. No more cold beer. Mac, what is this rule? And who are these people that are bringing this up?
Yeah, so I started to hear about it last night, and then obviously this morning I've heard a bunch about it. Like you said, super textures galore. We've already got a caller on the line waiting to talk about this. This is the bill. It's titled the Tennessee Prevention of Drunk Driving Act. It's sponsored by Republicans Ron Gant, who's out of Piperton, and Senator Paul Rose of Covington. So basically, this would seek to ban sales of refrigerated alcohol at convenience stores and retail establishments, and it would also place new restrictions on alcohol that's consumed in bars or restaurants. So it would get rid of those beer caves that you love in your Mapcos. None more of that.
How does the beer being warm prevent drunk driving?
If someone wants to drink it, man, they're going to drink it.
It just doesn't. I don't know how that prevents drunk driving.
Yeah, I don't know.
See, when I first heard it, I was like, oh, this must be some weird Democrat who's pushing green energy, cool your own darn beer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, two Republicans. And one of these, I believe it was Gant. Yeah, in this story, it goes into in 2022, Gant was injured in a 2-car crash in Hardeman County. A vehicle struck the middle line. That driver died. Gant now walks with a cane due to aid, and I think it was a drunk driver on the other end of that crash. So he's obviously close to this sort of situation. But, I mean, the restaurant part of this bill is pretty interesting, Chris. The ice cave thing is one thing.
So, all right, but the ice cave thing makes no sense.
That I don't know what that prevents.
It just makes you have to put it on ice?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, are they going to ban the sale of ice?
Yeah.
Can't sell ice or coolers at these establishments anymore either. All right, so I have no idea. I have no idea why they would ban refrigeration. What is the restaurant portion of the bill?
The restaurant portion of this bill is, this is the drunk driving, real big portion of that, at least kind of makes some sense as far as DUIs are concerned. So basically, if you're at a restaurant or a bar, it would cap how much you could drink. So 2 mixed drinks, 2 glasses of wine, or up to 3 beers, one of those options.
How do you
if you
enforce
wanted
that?
to drink more, you'd have to get a designated driver. You'd have to have alternative transportation. I don't know how they can confirm any of that. I don't know how you keep track of that. Like in a bar on Broadway on a Saturday night.
How do you... Can a bartender keep track of 300 people in a bar?
Yeah.
And how many drinks they've had?
Like, oh, sorry, you've had 2 Miller Lights. This is your last one.
Yeah, he's different, though, because he said he was Ubering.
Yeah, exactly.
You parked over there on 2nd.
Yeah, like...
How do you... I'm of the opinion that if a law is unenforceable, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, why we're wasting our time. Yeah.
And this is... So they're using our tax dollars on this.
Bingo.
Interesting.
Interesting to say the least.
Have they done anything to ban businesses or impose fines for illegal aliens working there?
It's a negative.
You know what I mean? Like, honestly.
Well, and then I just read this part of it. So the aim is to determine whether the driver was overserved at a restaurant or a bar. If they were, then the ABC could revoke that establishment's license. So basically, you'd have a bunch of restaurants and bars being revoked of licenses.
How do you prove that?
I don't know.
Like, if the limit is 2, you leave a bar on Broadway, you walk 30 seconds, and you're at another bar. How do you enforce that? Jeff in Lawrenceburg, you want to talk about cold beer. What's up, Jeff?
Yeah, guys. So I actually when I first heard that this morning, I actually called my representative, Clay Doggett, and asked him about, this bill in itself. What he had told me was this bill is actually a placeholder bill, that what they're looking at doing is basically adding a stiffer penalty to drunk driving. And then on top of that, it changes kind of how people can serve to, stiffens that penalty on people that serve to underage people. It's not actually about taking cold beer out of stores, is what he told me. But that's I kind of got to thinking, with everything going on in Tennessee right now, we're worried about cold beer.
It blows my mind, and maybe it is a placeholder. Maybe he was just running circles around you. I'm flabbergasted that they're wasting time and money on this.
Oh, I wouldn't. I am too. But that's you got to call your representatives, and then he lied to me. You lied to me.
Yeah.
He'll have to pay for it whenever it comes to voting.
No,
I'll hang up. Let's see, guys.
I appreciate the call, Jeff. And listen, I'm not. I think stiff penalties for drunk driving is fine. What are our penalties for drunk driving in Tennessee?
Yeah, Tennessee, first-time DUI offender, 48 hours up to 11 months and 29 days for offenders in violation. License revoked for a year.
And that's first time?
Yeah, this is first-time offense. Alcohol and drug treatment program, pay restitution, any person who suffered injury, up to a $1,500 fine. Ignition interlock device installed at your expense. Yeah. There's a couple other things, but yeah, it's a lot. I mean
it's going to cost you over $10,000 to get a DUI.
Yeah, and you're not going to have a license for like a year.
The Uber ride is always cheaper.
Yep.
You could take an Uber ride states away.
Yeah.
It will be cheaper than a DUI.
Yes.
I don't drink anymore. That's not for me, and I don't fault anybody for drinking. I just have my fun. I'm done.
Yeah, it's over. Yeah, it's fair.
But how do you make a penalty stiffer that's already pretty stiff? I don't know if you're going to be able to curb this behavior completely. If that's the goal, why would you put it out there as refrigeration?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't say anything about minors in what you see.
And what I've seen with minors, yeah, I'll look into it more, but let me do Control F here.
I haven't seen anything about minors. And yeah, there should absolutely be stiff penalties for people that serve alcohol to minors. I haven't seen it.
So from Gant, he says, right now we make it easy for alcohol to be available, not only to adults, but also to minors. The intent here is to curb the access to cold refrigerated alcohol at convenience stores and retail establishments. I don't understand the minor portion of that, though.
No, and 9495 on the super text line says it best. It's like, if you can't make the penalty more stiff, then you just limit the freedoms of everyone else. It's confusing. Confusing, to say the least. I don't understand what this is going to do. If you enforce the laws that are on the books, what do you have to worry about? More laws, making something more illegal isn't going to change things. Roberta texted in. She said, I'll tell you what it is. The illegals drink and drive, and I see it all the time in the parking lot of Walmart. This was rampant when I lived in Texas. Okay, but if there's any truth to that, then why would you not just stiffen the penalties for illegals in the area and demagnetize the area? Frank in Oak Grove, you're next on Super Talk. What do you think about this, Frank?
Hey, I used to be a claims adjuster for many years, a field claims adjuster, and I can't tell you how many police reports I've had where this was the person second, third, driving on a revoked license because of DUIs, and none of that seems to stop them. When I first moved out here from another state, there was a terrible accident on I-24 where a drunk driver crossed the grass median, hit a school bus, killed some kids. One of them, it burned him tremendously. He survived. After X amount of years, they let him out of prison, and it was, I guess you got to have a little breathometer thing. If you go in from bar to bar, you put a little plastic thing over, blowing. If you're above the legal limit, you can't serve them or whatever. But it's a problem that is awfully a light sentence compared to some other things.
No, I hear that, but like you said, it's people driving on revoked license anyways. Like they're not following the laws, they're not sticking to the penalties. Right. How does that change? How does new rules change it?
I don't know. It's like you were talking. I knew someone who had one of those things where you had to press a code, get in the car, blow into a little breathalyzer thing before it would let you start the car, and that might be the best way to go about it. And he had to pay for it. So
yeah, I mean, I think those they call them the interlock devices, right? I think that's probably the best route if you want to make it tougher for people that get DUIs. Yeah, just automatic interlock at any time. Thanks for the call, Frank.
Start the car.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Charles in Hermitage on this beer rule. What's up, Charles?
They've got a law already in force at bars and so forth as your intake cannot be but over 1 per hour. That's what they need to enforce that first. And then the other thing is that they got to go ahead and make the people serve their penalties. And the second time they do it, they need to incarcerate them.
Yeah, I hear you. I just don't know how you enforce the 1 hour rule. I also got a text here from Mark. He said, most folks won't pop a top on a hot beer as soon as in vehicle. The hope is to wait till home. What's so hard to see about that? I hear where you're at.
Am I wrong to say that most wouldn't pop the top of a cold one either?
I just don't. I think, like, if you're drunk driving, you got drunk somewhere. I don't think that there's people that are, like, this isn't open container laws, right?
Yeah.
You know, you're not trying to curb open containers. If that was the language in this proposed bill, does it say anything about open container? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I get your thought process, but I don't know. Most people that I know that have gotten DUIs got it after leaving a bar or after leaving a house party. So the wait till home, it doesn't add up for me. Debbie in Gallatin, you're next on Super Talk. What's up, Debbie?
Just about this bill, I don't think it is enforceable at all. Unfortunately, I have a son who is dealing with this kind of problem, and we have literally spent thousands and thousands of dollars to try to help him get better. But the bottom line is it's the judges that are letting these people out, because I have sat in the courtroom time and time again and saw or seen people that have 2 offenses, 3 offenses, 4 offenses, driving under the influence, driving without license, and they walk out the door. So it's with the judges to enforce the laws that are already on the book, not trying to make new laws.
Yeah.
And as far as this interlocking gizmo is concerned, somebody else can breathe in it and they can still get in it and drive.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, it's just like, it's so hard to enforce, Debbie, and I'm sorry that your son's dealing with that.
Well, I appreciate it, but I just wanted to let you know it's a lot of the judges.
No, I hear you, and I appreciate the call. You know, the alcoholism side of it, I totally get. I really do. You know that like almost 70% of alcohol revenue is for people that are alcoholics, from people that are alcoholics.
Dang. That's sad.
But like the people that have that issue and that are going to jump behind a wheel drunk, they're not caring what the penalty is at that point. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So whether the beer is warm or you have to buy it and put it in the fridge for a few, it doesn't.
So I'm saying these people find another way to have a cooler in their car. Like,
yeah. How does that curb a DUI?
Yeah.
Or you're going to go get some ice and do mixed drinks instead. It doesn't add up. I knew a guy. I saw a news story. I didn't know the guy. I saw the news story. This woman was drinking pure vanilla extract every day.
Ugh.
Total alcoholic. They kept finding these vanilla extract bottles and down at like the ravine on this like side street. And people were like, why is there like hundreds of vanilla extract bottles right here? Well, because the woman was an alcoholic and she would drink vanilla extract to get drunk before work because you couldn't smell it on her. My point is, if you have that kind of problem, you're going to find a workaround.
Yeah, you'll figure out your new way.
So I don't know how a new rule is going to be like, well, darn it, the beer's warm. Guess I can't drive drunk today. It doesn't add up to me. Jason in Shelbyville, you're next on Super Talk. What's up, Jason?
Hey, brother. How you doing? Listen, I just wanted to make a point, but your last caller kind of took the point I wanted to make. So a little back history. I'm a retired police officer from outside of Chicago, 20 years. I've seen both sides of that coin. I've seen what happened in the accidents firsthand. I still see that in my face. Mm-hmm. But on the other side of that coin, I just wanted to point out that let's enforce the laws we have. Your last caller hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many cases I would have that the judge would just literally throw out or minimize. The judges are nationwide, every topic, but on the DUI specifically, the judges are just horrible. We used to joke, me and my coworkers used to joke, it's harder to prosecute a DUI than it was a homicide. That
really?
was on on the lawyer side, the technicalities, paperwork, stuff like that. But yeah, I just wanted to make the point that it was the judges. Like I said, I could talk for hours on this topic. But,
Hey, I appreciate the call, Jason. Thanks so much, man. We got time for one more. Let's go to Robert in Gordonsville. You're next on Super Talk. What's up, Robert?
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Good, good. So, what do you think about all these rules, laws, and regulations they're putting down on these bars and bartenders and establishments? I mean, do you think they're looking at possibly going to where they can do lawsuits now? If somebody gets a DUI, they can turn and look at the bars and the establishments?
I mean, possibly, but even that, I don't know how that's enforceable. It's like, well, the person that is, you know, if the bar's being sued, you could be like, well, how are you going to prove it? The guy was drunk. I mean, maybe you go do cameras, you look at surveillance videos, see if they were overserved there. I just don't know how this is enforceable. And if the guy says that he has an Uber before he gets in a car, how can we expect bartenders to enforce these rules?
Yeah, it's impossible. And then I'll leave you with this thought. So, you know, we have an issue with DUIs already, which I think they need to make the laws a lot more stricter. But then we have states, including ours, that want to turn around and legalize marijuana. I mean, my opinion is now you're going to double the people that are impaired on the roads.
Yeah.
And that's all I got. Thanks, Chris.
I get where you're coming from, Robert. Thanks for the call, man. I got a couple more calls waiting in line. Hang on the line, guys. We'll get to you guys next. It's the new rule. No more cold beer, and you can only have, 2 drinks at the restaurants and bars?
3 if it's a beer.
Oh, 3 if it's a beer.
2 wine, 2 mixed drinks.
I learned in health class in 6th grade that it doesn't matter what version of the alcohol it is.
Exactly right.
You know what I mean?
That's it. 1 drink an hour.
That's
more than that. That's too much.
That's what I heard. My 6th grade health is a little shady, and this is back in the late 90s, early 2000s, so it's much different than 6th grade health today.
Very much so.
Maybe it's evolved. It's 10:22 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, checking traffic right now. Got a problem in Brentwood. An injury crash is blocking 65 northbound right there at Old Hickory Boulevard. Wilson County Schools experiencing a district-wide internet outage. We've got an active shooter in D.C., and the U.S. Defense Chief is trying to reassure NATO and Ukraine. These stories and more at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
No internet at school? What are these kids supposed to do? Read a book?
I think they should go home.
It's a wild world we live in.
I think I should go home.
You got about another hour, pal. So we're talking about no cold beer and 2-drink minimum. Unless it's beer, then you could have 3. Screw science on that part. But I got a text here. We were like, why are they doing this? 8695 said, of course, the ice lobby is behind this.
Of course. Big Ice.
I think you solved it. Big Ice is bribing our state senators.
Big Ice.
We've always been very anti-Big Ice on this show. And we will keep speaking out against Big Ice, I promise you. Let's go to Tony in Franklin. You're next on Super Talk. What's up, Tony?
Hey, good afternoon or good morning, Chris. How are you today?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. I'd heard this, and I couldn't help but call in. I went to Ole Miss in the 80s, and Lafayette County, the entire county, you couldn't buy cold beer. And I was from Mississippi, and I didn't understand this. Somebody had to explain it. So their solution was we drove 10 miles to the county line and bought beer, cold beer, and to the neighboring county. Or we just bought beer and put it in the cooler, and once again, Big Ice has took over on us. We would sprinkle it with ice cream salt, and you might choke down one hot beer, but by the second one, it was cold. So we've already, like the police officer, I was in law enforcement many years, and there's already laws on the books. Open container while driving, driving under the influence. There's lots of laws. This was a waste of time. I agree totally with you.
Oh yeah, and it's wasting our tax dollars. These guys are getting paid to bring this up and talk about it and all the things.
It's a feel-good thing, like 90% of what some do in politics. It's just for feel-good. It looks like we're doing something.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Hey, I appreciate your call, Tony. Thanks so much, man.
Yes, sir. Have a great.
Oh, sorry, I hung up on him right at the end. I lived in Massachusetts. You couldn't buy beer on Sunday, and on holidays you couldn't buy beer. Yeah. We drove up to New Hampshire.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we weren't drinking and driving on the way back.
No.
Again, almost everybody I knew got DUIs after getting drunk and then getting in a car.
Yeah, after going to a bar or a party. Yeah.
Not driving around and getting drunk.
No.
It's a fascinating rule, and I don't know why they're trying to push it. 4680 has an idea.
Okay.
4680 on the super text line says, it's the Russians. They want us to buy more vodka. It's always Russia, isn't it?
Russia.
It's always Russia.
Everyone saying Russia, Russia, Russia.
It's always Russia. It's 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes. And right now in Middle Tennessee, Wilson County is reporting a school district-wide internet outage. They posted to X that their service provider is currently working to identify the problem area and fix it. Right now in Washington, D.C., several city blocks are shut down, schools on lockdown near where a person is holed up in a home after shooting at least 3 police officers. Here's Chief Pamela Smith.
The individual refused to come outside. As officers attempted to gain entry, the individual fired upon them.
Yeah, and he keeps firing from inside the house. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, addressing today's NATO summit remotely, says the commitment to Ukraine will not waver.
We'll continue to work together to get Ukraine what it needs to hold on to its gains and to keep pushing back Russia's illegal occupation in the months ahead.
Secretary Austin just got out of the hospital after he had to go back for a bladder issue. He told NATO members his cancer prognosis is, quote, excellent. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
I heard the weatherman say wet snow. Mac, gonna need a fact check. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. So the Ukrainian funding bill, not happening. It's not happening. Hallelujah. It's not happening. Speaker Johnson said a few minutes ago that that thing is dead and that the Republican-led House is not going to be forced into this. Here's Mike Johnson just a few minutes ago.
The Republican-led House will not be jammed or forced into passing a foreign aid bill that was opposed by most Republican senators and does nothing to secure our own border. It's time for Washington to start showing some love to Americans. On Valentine's Day, this is a good day to point this out. You need to listen to the American people and their needs and take action. And that's why House leadership will continue to govern with Americans' interests at heart.
All right. That's Mike Johnson. I could have done without the Valentine's Day references. You know, show some love. It's Valentine's Day.
The Republican-led House.
We're gonna lead with our heart. All right, Mike. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like
he's not getting you with the mushy stuff today.
No. It's like, what is he gonna say on St. Patrick's Day? Like, oh, the Republicans did this, and I think that we're all Irish today, and the American people may want to kiss us. The Democrats aren't wearing green, and I know you may want to pinch them. You know, like, what are you going to... Just
if you do, right there under the chin.
Yeah, it's just cheesy. It's just cheesy. All right.
In other words, grab them by the necks.
Yes.
Excited to see what he has planned for Arbor Day. I mean, it's just...
We're gonna stand tall like the trees in the forest.
Exactly.
We're gonna plant a seed.
Zelensky, at the same time, has been demanding that the U.S. House vote for Ukraine funding. Yep, you heard me right.
Demanding.
Zelensky demands the U.S. House vote for Ukraine funding. I wish somebody could tell him that's not how this works. You don't get to demand anything. Zelensky said passing the foreign aid package was crucial for all nations whose independence is a target for Russian attacks either now or in the future. Hate to break it to you. Seems like it's just your nation that's having to deal with that. And you should push for peace. But this is after the Senate passed their $95 billion foreign aid package Tuesday. Zelensky said, you know, it was the moral thing to do, fund Ukraine. So it's the moral thing to do. It's unbelievable. And he said it wearing that same green shirt. He said a strategically important vote took place in the United States. In a video message, the Senate voted in favor of a package of further support for our country, our warriors, our efforts, and democracy in general. The next step is the vote in the House of Representatives. This is extremely important. We anticipate an equally strong moral choice and decision that will enter into effect, contributing to our common security. Well, the vote's not happening, pal. Sorry. Hate to break it to you. It's not happening. And I, for one, say good. I don't understand how mortgaging our financial security in this country is going to make us more secure. And I don't understand how slow walking towards World War III makes us more secure. You know, President Biden yesterday, he tried to make the case that the House should vote on it. Mike Johnson didn't take the bait. But, I mean, yesterday, Joe Biden, he was a mess. Joe Biden walks up to the podium. Before he even gets to the podium, he starts talking and immediately tells everyone he won't be taking any questions.
Good afternoon. Before we begin, I'm going to make this statement, let it stand on its own. I'm not going to take any questions, but I'll be taking questions tomorrow and the next day.
Not taking any questions. I'll take questions tomorrow or the next day, says the president. He also blames Republicans for opposing funding. And then he proceeds to skip like an old CD.
For Republicans in Congress who think they can oppose funding for Ukraine and not be held accountable, history is watching. History is watching. History is watching.
I didn't replay that. That was Joe Biden repeating himself over and over and over. I saw the jokes. The teleprompter got stuck. I prefer he was skipping like an old CD. History is watching. to those Republicans that are opposing funding? Well, they're watching the Republicans make the right choice, and Mike Johnson just told the nation it's not happening. It's not happening. But yesterday, Joe Biden just on live TV basically breaks down how the military-industrial complex works and how they get their money.
And the way it works is we supply Ukraine with military equipment from our stockpiles. And then we spend our money replenishing those stockpiles so our military has access to them. Stockpiles that are made right here in America by American workers.
Yep. Well, it's not happening. We're not going to be funding them. And he closes his press conference by saying, I'll answer questions later, I promise.
God bless you all. May God protect our speakers, and I promise I'll come back and answer questions later. Thank you.
Yep, I'll answer questions later. And he got the heck out of there. It's been a wild couple of days in the House with the Ukraine funding that is just garbage. Thank goodness Mike Johnson is not going to let that go to the floor for a vote. And then the Mayorkas impeachment. The Mayorkas impeachment, it's cool. Granted, it's more of a symbolic victory, but it's a victory nonetheless.
On this vote, the yeas are 214 and the nays are 213. The resolution is adopted.
Mayorkas impeached. First time we've seen that in 150 years. Somebody in the president's cabinet get impeached. Good. Our own Tim Burchett weighed in on the Mayorkas impeachment after the vote last night.
Hey, everybody. Tim Burchett leaving the House floor tonight. A few votes. The main one, of course, was impeaching Secretary Mayorkas, and we, in fact, had the votes tonight, and he was impeached, and he should have been. He lied under oath. He said our border is safe, and, in fact, it is not safe. It is a very dangerous place, and there is little or any security there. People are coming over, as you know, and this president and this White House and have done very little to do. We already had H.R. 2 passed last year, and it was, I'll get you 1 second, I'm sorry, and it's waiting over there on Schumer's desk and refused to do anything about it. So it was a good vote. He needed to be impeached. We've got to get away from this. Everybody gets a trophy, and there's nobody held accountable. So thank y'all for sitting here.
So he says, we got to get away from this. Everybody gets a trophy, and nobody's held accountable. He brings up the fact that we already have H.R. 2, which could go to the Senate, which would secure our border. Here's what H.R. 2 does. It gets rid of undocumented workers in the U.S. workforce. That's pretty good. It slashes asylum. I mean, under the existing law, immigrants who make a credible claim of being refugees can stay in the U.S. while that claim is assessed. Under the H.R. 2, which Tim Burchett's talking about, they are not allowed to wait while they're processed or assessed, if you will. H.R. 2 makes it much harder for these illegal aliens to claim asylum, and it makes it much harder for them to be able to stay long enough for that claim to be processed. It also would build a wall and slash immigrant services. It's good things. And it ends protections for migrant children. H.R. 2 would roll back many protections for minors created under the Flores settlement, which resulted from a 1993 court case and has since guided federal immigration law, except under Trump. So these are good things. They say it doesn't address legal immigration, but I don't know about you. We need to stop the bleeding first. I think impeaching Mayorkas is a good step in the right direction. It's not going to go through the Senate. It makes Democrats upset. Sheila Jackson Lee, she had this to say about the impeachment of Mayorkas.
Tonight, we did a foolish thing, and that is to pass an impeachment of a very qualified and effective Secretary of Homeland Security. Do your job, Mr. Secretary. Do not be impacted, Secretary Mayorkas, by this false attempt to diminish you. Help us as we work toward making the border safe.
Oh, yeah. They're working towards making the border safe. Okay. Dan Goldman says this is just, the Mayorkas impeachment is just MAGA collecting scalps.
That's what this is all about. It is taking a scalp for Secretary Mayorkas for the MAGA base and trying to lay the blame at his feet for a situation at the border that needs to be addressed, but can only be addressed by legislation, not by executive action.
Oh. It's just a MAGA scalp. That's what they say. Just a MAGA scalp. Something needs to be done on the border. I mean, what they're trying to do is hot garbage. So impeaching Mayorkas is a step in the right direction. It's not going to get through the Senate, but, the Democrats are seething. The rhinos are seething. Ken Buck said it was a mistake and that it sets a terrible precedent. Of course, he went on CNN to say that. Anytime these people are upset and seething, I have to feel like we're going in the right direction. Joe Biden said the impeachment was petty political games. Petty political games. He said, history will not look kindly on House Republicans for their blatant act of unconstitutional partisanship that has targeted an honorable public servant in order to play political games. Okay. Now, the impeachment vote did fail the first time. This is the second time they had to take the vote. And one of the reasons is because our majority in the House is so slim. It's a very slim majority. Back at the time when the first one failed, our boy George Santos re-entered the chat and said, "Do you miss me yet? Do you miss me?" Because his vote would have gotten this impeachment done the first time. Well, we can kiss that vote goodbye moving forward because they had a special election for George Santos last night, and the Democrat won. So we have lost that seat to Democrats. Meanwhile, Democrats like Gold Bar Bob's Menendez, he's still hanging out, waiting for his case to process. Does that bother you? 615-737-9986. It bothers me personally. I've really thought about this a lot. And the fact that Republicans kicked out a guy that could help them before the legal process played out. Democrats don't do that with their guys. And now we've lost George Santos' seat to a Democrat in a special election. Republicans constantly shoot themselves in the foot. It blows my mind. It really does. The special election for ousted Rep. George Santos, former House seat, was held yesterday. Republicans lost the seat to Democrat Tom Suozzi, who beat out Republican Mazie Pilip 59-41. So our majority shrinks even more. New York's 3rd congressional district will now be controlled by Democrats after the Republicans gave up the seat, though Santos has not been tried or convicted on any charges. On any charges. It's really frustrating. Because again, Democrats like Cori Bush, Democrats like Bob Menendez, they're still in their seat. And I know George Santos isn't a good guy, but politics is a dirty game, and we need the votes with our slim majority. And we just gave a seat away. We gave it away. We gave it away. Matt in Smyrna, what do you think about this? You're next on Super Talk. What's up, Matt?
Hey, what's going on, Chris? I have so many comments, but I'm just going to limit it because I know you don't have a lot of time. But, this is just bad policy from both, especially from the Republican Party. The Democrats have their own issues, but going to the Republican Party, it's like you set the bar so low, and there is no more decency anymore. You're talking about how the Gold Bar, whatever his name is,
Bob Menendez.
But when Trump started all of these the sexual assault cases, which he stayed in office and, he doubled down, said he didn't do these things. That should have been addressed. Now, let me ask you, I don't know how old you are.
Wait. You said when Trump did what?
Okay, so let me say this to clear this up. I'm old, and whenever a politician had a problem such as an affair, any type of issue that make him look badly during an election, they step down.
Okay.
They didn't want the scrutiny. They stepped down. Trump did not. Trump said, "Hey, I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. I don't care how many times I've been sued, the negative press. I'm gonna do what I want to do," and that opened the door for all these other people to do whatever they want to do.
Matt, I think you're forgetting. You said you're old. Maybe your memory's a little hazy. I think you're forgetting about Bill Clinton in the Oval Office with Monica Lewinsky, my man.
Okay, but you have to understand. I guess you're not going to keep it in the context. These are.
Well, you said Trump opened the door to not stepping down. I just don't understand the context of it in the sense of clearly you're not for Trump. Maybe you consider yourself a Republican. I don't really know. But I don't know why you brought it to Trump not stepping down. What allegations should he have stepped down for?
Well, the sexual assaults
of who? Of who?
Of the 27 other women that had the claims.
You're going to need to be specific. You're going to need to be specific.
Okay. I don't have the names off. I don't have the names.
See, but that's the problem. That's the problem right there, Matt. If you want to attack Trump, bring receipts, my man, and we can have the conversation.
Okay, then I'll tell you what. I will get back to you on that topic with the names. But it's really pointless because, again, you have the Democrats that back in the 70s and 80s that will have their scandals, and they will step away from public office. But when you turn around and
I think you're also forgetting Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe. There's definitely been people that step away from office, but there's been so many scandals where they don't, man. And Republicans shoot themselves in the foot. This Santos guy had his scandal. They didn't let the legal process play out. The Republicans shot themselves in the foot, and they gave away his seat to Democrats.
Okay, so what you want is you're telling him to stay in, knowing all of these issues for a vote. So you're selling out for a vote.
Yep.
You're selling out for a vote.
Totally. No. I'm letting the legal process play out the same way the Democrats do with people like Cory Bush or people like Bob Menendez. The rules have changed. Our majority is slim, and I personally think that we would be better served having his vote while the legal process plays out. So we're not wasting taxpayer money, and we could have got that impeachment done in the first place. What about Eric Swalwell, who is sleeping with a Chinese spy? What about Dianne Feinstein, who has a Chinese spy for her chauffeur for over 20 years? Ted Kennedy killed a girl and still went for election.
Okay, so these Chinese spies, have these that is, first of all, hey, where's your proof, and is it legal proof? Have they been convicted in a court of law?
I mean, buddy, I'll let you do your own research. I gotta hit a break, Matt.
All right.
But I'd love to talk to you more. I'd love to talk to you more. I really would. Seriously, you're welcome anytime. Appreciate you. It's 10:54 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand for my friends at Members Nutrition. What is in your body? Let's face it, it's not good stuff. Did you know that toxins are actually building up in your body that suppress your immune system and your ability to absorb nutrients and fight illness? And the toxins are everywhere. The toxins are in the air we breathe and the food we eat. They are everywhere. That excess waste is going to cause you to age prematurely. It's going to make you feel bloated, downright gross, sluggish. It's time to change your body's oil, and you should do it with the guys that I do it with, Members Nutrition. You can experience their cleanse. It's called Youthful Cleanse, this daily defense ultimate cleanse for optimal digestive health. Gut health is so important. And I think that if you're into these kind of supplements, if you're into optimizing your health, you need to check out membersnutrition.com. If you're seeking reliable, effective solutions to support your digestive system, look no further. These guys at membersnutrition.com have exactly what you need with Youthful Cleanse. I've done it myself twice. I feel great. You're going to feel great too. I did it last weekend and the weekend before. I'm probably going to do it this weekend because my health is important to me. It should be important to you as well. Now, one of the things that's different with Members Nutrition, all of these vitamins and supplements are made right here in the USA. It's what's really important to the people at Members Nutrition. They wanted to build it here. So much of our vitamins, supplements, medical stuff comes from out of the country, China. They didn't want to do that. Everything at membersnutrition.com is made right here in the USA, not with teeny tiny little hands in China. So you should sign up for these guys if you're into vitamins, if you're into supplements, and you want to try this Daily Defense Youthful Cleanse. Membersnutrition.com.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got a traffic problem right now in Brentwood. It is 65 northbound at Old Hickory Boulevard. You got a crash blocking the right lane. Full forecast in 2 minutes. Right now in Washington, D.C., Police Chief Pamela Smith says 3 of her officers were injured when a person barricaded in a home on the southeast side refused to come out and open fire on them.
This remains an active situation, and the individual has continued to fire from that location. We are asking everyone to please stay out of this location.
Yeah, several streets are blocked off, schools are on lockdown, and elsewhere at the nation's capital. House Speaker Mike Johnson says that Senate bill President Biden wants to continue pumping billions of dollars to Ukraine isn't going to happen.
We are not going to be forced into action by the Senate, who, in the latest product they sent us over, does not have one word in the bill about America's border, not one word about security. The reason that the other one was dead on arrival is because it did not meet the moment. It would not have solved the problem. You can't leave giant loopholes and codify some of the things that have gotten us into this situation.
Meanwhile, Democrats in the lower chamber are working to shore up enough support for what's called a discharge petition that would force a vote on the aid package. It would require 218 signatures for the vote, rather at least to get the vote, and they would need some Republicans. Experts warning that e-cigarette use among middle schoolers is rising, with a report from the CDC finding more than 500,000 say they vape. Ariel Reshef says it's leading to a movement to try to help kids from ever starting up.
It's a talk Jackson Hole High School senior Ava Flanagan wishes she had sooner.
The first time I used a vape was at a middle school dance. It was in 8th grade. My friend had a vape with her, and I was like, can I try it?
That one experimental puff, Ava says, over time turned into a vaping addiction that took an emotional toll on her and eventually affected her entire family. They say her irritability was fueled by her body's cravings for vapes.
And adding to the concern, according to experts, is that disposable flavored vapes are most common among kids, which are illegal here in the U.S. and nearly exclusively smuggled in from China. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Spring-like temperatures and then wet snow. Fact check that, Mac. It's crazy. If your HVAC system is not working the way it should be, you don't know if you're going to need your AC this time of year or your heat. Well, either way, you should call the guys who I trust, Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Whether you need to get your heat checked on or your AC system serviced before it starts cranking for the summer, it's time to get your system serviced the best way, the Busy Bee way with Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, because you don't want to wait for a problem to pop up this time of year. Be proactive. Keep your unit in the best working condition you can. Whether you need that annual maintenance, repair, or replacement plumbing, heating, or air system, the guys who I trust are Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. You're not going to find a better value on replacement systems. They offer up to 12 months, no payment, no interest with approved credit, and you can get even more rewards by signing up to be a Beehive member. That'll get you signed up for that annual maintenance on your plumbing, heating, and air systems. It'll get you no overtime charges 24/7 and 10% off all repairs, plus front-of-the-line service on all your repairs. Remember, they have convenient Saturday availability for those maintenance calls, so you'll never be left out in the cold or the heat. Busy Bee, they're your Rude Pro partner for satisfaction guaranteed. Call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. 615-775-7833. That's 615-775-7833 or online at busybeehvac.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Mayorkas impeached. Would have been done last week if we had the votes. One of the reasons we didn't have the votes was because Republicans kicked out George Santos without letting the legal process play out. I don't really like George Santos. I just like having a majority in the House, right? Is that a bad thing to say? I got a text here from 5174. He said, Chris, politics is a blood sport. The quicker Republicans figure that out, the better. Dems would never do that. No, and the Dems haven't. With Bob Menendez, who is taking gold bar bribes from a foreign government. He still is there. He wasn't kicked out before the legal process played out. Cori Bush using campaign funds for private security for her husband, who has no license in D.C. or in her home state or her home district of St. Louis. No big deal. She gets to keep her seat as the legal process plays out. Did we make a mistake not letting the legal process play out with Santos? Brent in Winchester, you're next on Super Talk. What's up, Brent?
Hey, I don't know if you remember, Matt Gaetz gave a terrific speech on it because he said it's a horrible precedent that you can just make accusations against people because, as you know, crazy accusations were made against him that ended up being untrue. And it's the same way with Trump. You know, he's an insurrectionist. Well, that wasn't adjudicated. It's just an accusation. And I guess the Supreme Court's going to, rule almost unanimously against it. But still, we're in a strange place where you can just make accusations against people, and that's what we're supposed to go on. It's like Salem witch trials, a witch.
Yeah, well, and they tried to do the same thing with Kavanaugh, and everybody forgets that. That got memory hold as well.
Exactly. As a sophomore in high school, he ran a rape gang on college girls.
Yeah.
Seems legit.
Yeah, makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And because of that, he's not allowed to be a Supreme Court justice. Meanwhile, Ketanji Brown, she's not a biologist. She doesn't know the difference between a man and a woman. She's totally fine.
So, but we're in a strange place where they're saying, and I thought Matt Gaetz had a very good point that we can't be in a place where we just make accusations against, even if we're pretty sure that Santos is a nut. You have to let the legal system play out first.
Yeah, and because and thanks for the call, Brent. I really appreciate it. And because they didn't let the legal process play out, we had a special election last night in New York. And because of that special election, the Republicans essentially handed the seat to Democrats. They handed it down. Here you go. We don't want to be viewed as the meanies. But the left has done an excellent job of weaponizing the accusation. I love what that guy said. It's the Salem witch trials. A witch. It's the truth. The accusation is all the left needs to demonize you. And they'll repeat it over and over and over again. Over and over and over again. Maybe, this is all for naught. And it's like, well, we still have the majority. We still got Mayorkas impeached. Maybe it doesn't mean that big of a deal. But we would have got this done a lot quicker if we had that guy's vote. Do you agree? 615-737-9986. But it's amazing because the accusations never work the other way around. It's only when the right gets accused that the accusations stick. When people say Joe Biden's involved in his family business, oh, how could you say that? That's just not true. The accusation doesn't stick. When evidence becomes clear, well, I only talked to them about the weather. It's just end of discussion. It's insane. And Joe Biden, man, all the stuff that's coming out again with him and his family. Tony Bobulinski testifying yesterday. Fox News had a breakdown of his testimony.
And I'm told by sources in the room right now with Tony Bobulinski that he's testified under oath that he did, of course, meet with Joe Biden back in 2017 in Los Angeles on the sidelines of that Milken conference. And it wasn't just a quick meeting. Apparently, Bobulinski testified that he met with Joe Biden for 45 minutes to an hour back in May 2017. So that's happening right now. Also, a source told me that Bobulinski has, in fact, confirmed under oath that Joe Biden is the big guy, or he was the big guy in those emails that, of course, have been floating around for years.
And even with evidence in their face, Biden won't step down. The Democrats aren't going to step down based on accusations, based on evidence. They don't do that kind of stuff. It's a new game in politics. We should be fighting tooth and nail for every seat, every vote. It blows my mind. The Santos stuff, it boggles my mind, because when George Santos, all this stuff was breaking down, Republicans were the first to throw him under the bus. Lousy person, yes. Yep. But we could use that vote. And when the state of the country's at risk, do we want to just cede that ground and say, oh, you're right, we can't have him? Seriously, like, everything we know about this country is at risk right now. Not hyperbole. Southern border's wide open. We need to get some stuff passed. Our government wants to give money to Ukraine instead. We have Republicans that won't vote for the impeachment of Mayorkas. We need everybody that we can get. Every single person. It's just so frustrating. And then the guy we have in the White House has actual claims against him, actual evidence against him. His mind is not working. We can see it in real time, and he won't step down. The Democrats won't play by the same rules. Rules for thee, but not for me. Mike Johnson actually commented on Biden's mental state not too long ago.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. It is Ash Wednesday and also Valentine's Day, as has been mentioned. The American people are not feeling very loved right now, though. They're not feeling heard by the Biden administration. And I'm going to recap a few of the things that you've heard here this morning already. First,
I just can't. The Valentine's Day jokes just kill me.
First of all, regarding this fitness for office of the president, Americans have been speaking out about the president's mental acuity and the double standards within his Justice Department.
Yep.
On Thursday, as you know, the special counsel confirmed that President Biden mishandled classified materials in a way that presented serious risk to national security. He broke the law, but he's not going to be charged. Why is that? Well, special counsel said that it decided not to indict the president in part because there are significant limitations on his memory, and a jury wouldn't convict him because he would be presented as, quote, an elderly man with a poor memory.
Biden, 2024, elderly man with a poor memory.
That did not inspire confidence among the American people. It's of great concern to us. Ultimately, they're indicting, remember now, the DOJ is indicting one president with politically motivated charges, and they are now carrying the water for another amid very similar allegations. A man too incapable of being held accountable for mishandling classified information is certainly unfit for the Oval Office.
Yes, but double standards, right? Double standards. Robert in Lebanon, you're next on Super Talk. What's up, man?
I think the problem with the Republicans, their biggest problem is themselves. You've got, like, our own two senators, Marcia and Haggerty. They still are supporting McConnell to be the leader of the Senate. When the majority of the Republican caucus wouldn't vote for that bill, but McConnell did. And I've yet to hear Blackburn or Haggerty demand his resignation. If you're not going to stand as a united party, then you don't even complain when things go wrong. I mean, we've got half of the Republican Party is one way, the other half is another way. It's until, in my opinion, until the Christian conservatives that are too dumb to realize that the Republicans don't care nothing about them, they just care about their vote. Christian conservatives are the same to Republicans as black votes are to Democrats. And until you start voting for people that actually have the same values as you, you're going to keep getting crap like Romney and McConnell leading your party.
Yeah, I hear where you're coming from, Robert. And the McConnell stuff is frustrating, too, because when he had that gaffe and he froze and kind of stalled out, you know, like his system was rebooting, we all said he's too old for office and he should step down.
Yeah, but nobody made him, did they?
No.
I never heard Blackburn call for his resignation.
No.
Never heard Haggerty. And those are supposed to be two of the most conservatives. They're in definitely one of the most conservative states. But everybody is scared of the deep state that Trump was fighting against. And they'll say, yeah, we'll fight with Trump, but they sure as heck won't take the lead.
No, you're absolutely right. They wait. It's like DeSantis on the debate stage. Will you support Trump if he's convicted? Let me look to my left. Let me look to my right. Is other people standing up? Oh, okay, I will.
Yeah, and I voted for DeSantis on his reelection because I was living in Florida at the time, and I like Ron DeSantis, but deep down, I think he's like one step better than a Bush Romney.
No, yeah,
and not a big step. I mean, just a step.
No, I always I said this a couple times. It feels like Bush light. Like he tried to mimic what Trump was, and then when he started running for office, he tried to mimic what Bush was.
That's until the party decide. The other thing that kills me too is all these people need to quit calling Romney a rhino and McConnell a rhino. That's not that is a Republican. Trump is the rhino because he's Republican in name only. He just needs a Republican name to get elected. I'd actually look at rhinos just the opposite. Rhinos are all these Republicans that, well, basically it's what Marshall Blackburn is. It's what Haggerty is. It's somebody that's I'll have this, you know, I have no moral compass. That's the biggest problem. No moral compass at all. It's great talking to you, Chris.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. Thanks, Robert. A super texter 1775 pointed out that Blackburn did say on the station that there would more than likely be new leadership in the Senate. I missed that. I don't know what interview that was. I know she goes on a lot of shows here. So Blackburn has said that she thinks there should be new leadership in the Senate. But she hasn't called for resignation. It's like McConnell's terrible, but like it's like the same argument I just made with Santos. Who gets the seat? Do we want to force a guy to resign? And then what are the results of that? What did our friend yesterday say when he called in? We got to look downrange before we make these kind of decisions. It's 11:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That crash in Brentwood still blocking the right lane, 65 northbound at Old Hickory Boulevard. We got an active shooter situation in Washington, D.C. There is about to be thousands more illegal immigrants released into the country, and guess who Homeland Security is going to blame? Speaker Mike Johnson is standing his ground on that Senate Ukraine funding bill. These stories are more at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. A lot of people want to weigh in on Republicans. Let's go to Dan in Hendersonville. You're next on Super Talk. What's up, Dan?
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to take issue with this Robert guy that called in because Marsha Blackburn voted against Mitch in 2020 when he, actually 2021, I guess, when he was up for Senate Minority Leader. I'm not sure about Haggerty because he was just elected, so I'm not sure how he voted. But these people that call in here and they support RFK Jr., the guy from Murfreesboro a couple of weeks ago,
RFK,
I don't
bro,
understand these people.
Yeah, I listen.
But Lamar Alexander and Bob Corker, they were rhinos. They were true anti-Trump rhinos. I don't know what these people calling Marsha a rhino. I don't understand that. Do you?
So every time I see it, it goes back to really what happened on January 6th. They all say that Blackburn and Haggerty lied to people, saying that they would not support the electors going forward, and then they did.
I hear where you're coming from. The problem, here's another problem. Now, I'm a lot older than you guys. I called the RNC back in the 90s, and they told me that they don't get down in the mud and the gutter. They're above the fray. And I don't remember. I was listening to Hannity one day, probably might have been during W. Bush's administration. And Limbaugh, all the right-wingers, talk shows, were having people call their senators and their congressperson. And they just destroyed the phone system, I guess, at the U.S. Capitol, because Trent Lott, and I was listening to Hannity that day, Trent Lott called him up and just chewed him up, spit him out, man.
No, I mean, I just think I get that. But I get that Republicans don't want to be down in the mud. They want to be above that. But it's like the political warfare and nature of it has changed. Do you know what I mean? If our soldiers were going up there and lining up like they did in the Revolutionary War and had a drum, they would lose every single battle. And we're finding ourselves in a situation where the Republicans are trying to wage political warfare the same way you did in the early 2000s and late 90s, and it's not cutting it anymore. The rules of engagement have changed.
Do you remember Tom DeLay?
I do.
Texas? Okay, they got him out of politics the way you were saying. We had a senator from Alaska, Ted Stevens, died in a plane crash. They got him out of politics. They charged him like this guy Jack Off Smith that's going after Trump. They charged these Republicans, but it didn't stick. They were all acquitted, but they got them out of politics.
Yep.
And what you're saying is Republicans don't play that game. They never did.
Yeah.
The only Democrat I remember that got put out was Dan Rostenkowski. Remember him?
I don't remember Dan. I don't.
He was a Chicago powerful Democrat, and there was a mail fraud going on, and he was actually pocketing money, and he got put out. He's the only one I can think of that got put out. Like you said,
hey,
Bill Clinton.
Yeah, yep. Clinton is one of them, but Democrats and mail fraud, it just seems like a tale as old as time.
I mean, but some of these guys that call in here, the RFK Jr. lover, I don't understand that. You remember that call a couple of weeks ago?
Well, RFK bro, and I appreciate your call, Dan. RFK bro, he agrees with Robert F. Kennedy's stance against vaccines and the medical industrial complex, and I get why people like RFK. It's because people are just dying for some sort of change in the current political establishment. They don't really dive deep, though. It's all surface level with the RFK guys. They like his vaccine stance. They like what they've heard on Tucker when he's talking about the biolabs in Ukraine. They like that he's anti-CIA. They like those things, but they never really get down in the dirty on his green energy policies or how he feels about the Second Amendment. They really just focus on what they like. That's what I've learned about RFK Bros. It's 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes. Right now in Washington, D.C., Police Chief Pamela Smith says someone barricaded in a home on the southeast side, injured 3 of her police officers.
The individual refused to come outside. As officers attempted to gain entry, the individual fired upon them.
She says he's still firing at people. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has drawn up plans to release thousands more illegal immigrants from detention and severely cut its detention capacity at the border. And the Homeland Security Department blames Congress for rejecting the bipartisan border agreement they claim they needed to ramp up deportations and detentions. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson says that bill was flawed, and so is this new Senate Ukraine funding bill.
We're going to continue to demand that before we take care of issues all around the world, we take care of our own first.
Meanwhile, Democrats in the House are trying to get enough signatures on a discharge petition to get around to Speaker Johnson and force a vote on that measure. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, it's Chris Hand from my friends at Paul Winkler Inc. Listen, I know a lot of people are worried about the markets right now. They're up, they're down, and it's kind of nerve-wracking. But this is why I'm so excited to tell you about a new workshop that Paul is doing that you don't want to miss. It's called Politics and Portfolios, How to Invest During an Election Season. And you can secure your spot right now by visiting paulwinkler.com/election. We always tell you that Paul's biggest mission is to educate people on the financial world. That's literally what he prides himself on. And this is your opportunity to get that education firsthand. Because the financial landscape can be pretty confusing in election year. Should you be looking to buy? Should you be looking to sell? How should you expect the market to behave? Well, Paul can cut through that noise, and he's been diving deep into historical data to bring you facts and explain things in an easy-to-understand way with data. And Paul's going to be live online to do just that February 23rd at 12 p.m. That's February 23rd at 12. But life happens. So if you can't make that in real time, register anyway, and they'll shoot you a link to catch the replay. Now, I'm required to tell you that I'm paid every time this commercial airs, but here's the thing. I'm also a client of Paul's. This guy is a fiduciary and an expert resource on financial markets. He can be an expert resource for you as well. Don't take my word for it, though. Check out the details at paulwinkler.com/election. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. A couple stories that I want to get to that we haven't been able to yet. It's been a busy day. Joe Biden has been fundraising off of the special counsel report. But how? I don't know how, but he has. And much the way that Trump fundraises off indictments, I guess, the Biden campaign is fundraising off the special counsel's claims that, he couldn't remember the date of when he was vice president or when his son died. Okay. They've been fundraising off of it. He actually sent out an email Tuesday morning, Joe Biden's campaign, and it said that the special counsel, Robert said that the president, among other things, had a poor memory. He could not remember when his son Bo died, and the email described that report as a political attack that invoked his son's name. So they're attempting to use this and capitalize on it. Very, very much like the Democrats, never let a crisis go to waste. So they're going to try and fundraise off of it. Tell you what, though, they're not polling well off of this. Another terrible poll for Biden. Old, elderly, and diminished Joe. More than half of Americans think that Biden got special treatment in the classified documents probe. Half of them think he got special treatment. And almost 80% think he is too old to work in government. It's wild. Wild. Half of Americans think Joe Biden got special treatment when they decided not to prosecute him for mishandling classified documents. And almost 80% think that he is too old to work in government. Wild. So it's not helping his polling. And there's been reports that Senate Democrats privately are worried that Joe Biden's age could cost them the White House. Privately worried. Senate Democrats are privately worried that Joe Biden's age of 81 years could cost their party the White House, but say that the subject is so taboo that it is not even discussed at their weekly caucus lunches, according to a report. This is from The Hill yesterday. They said that Democrat senators admit privately his age is their biggest concern, but they don't want to talk about it. One Democratic senator told the outlet, "In all of our lunches, it's never been discussed. It's kind of amazing." It's never been discussed, his age. And then I heard this clip of Chuck Schumer, who's, heading up those Senate Democrats. And it's like, of course it's not going to be discussed. Listen to the way that Chuck Schumer tries to whitewash over the fact that Joe Biden has no memory.
I talk to President Biden, regularly, sometimes several times in a week, or usually several times in a week. His mental acuity is great. It's fine. It's as good as it's been over the years. I've been speaking to him for 30 years since we worked on the Brady bill and the assault weapons ban when I was a young congressman. He's fine. All this right-wing propaganda that his mental acuity has declined is wrong.
Oh, so he sells it by saying, he's fine. He's fine. And it's right-wing propaganda. Okay.
Bingo.
Those dang right-wingists are at it again.
Bingo.
What are we going to do? It's extremism. But again, you have Democratic senators telling The Hill that in all of their lunches, his age has never even been discussed. It's kind of amazing. This unnamed senator said. But he added, I don't think that means people aren't worried about it. Look, I worry about it. The senator continued, I'm less worried about his ability. I'm assuming he's going to do the job, but I'm worried about a lot of people in this country who think he's not up to the task. According to the report from The Hill, Democrat senators quietly acknowledge that the age is a big problem, especially among voters, but they think it's too late to do anything to find a new nominee. A second Democrat senator told The Hill, the general sense of folks is that we've hitched our wagon to Biden, that he's delivered a lot in partnership. It may not be Biden himself, but it's his team, right? And we're already into the primaries. So it doesn't seem like they're going to swap him out. It seems like a lot of people think that Joe is the guy, for better or worse. David Axelrod, who is a former Obama official, he advisor, he said that Michelle Obama isn't running. Michelle Obama is not walking through that door.
What should we be saying about Michelle Obama?
Well, here's what I know. Michelle Obama loves this country. She's a brilliant person and a brilliant communicator, but she was a conscript to politics. She never was interested in a political life. Even when Barack Obama was a young politician, she really didn't participate much in his campaigns. I was with him in his Senate campaign in 2004. I think she showed up twice in the whole campaign on election nights. So, she is not someone who likes politics. She doesn't like the tone and tenor of politics. And I would be floored if she would consent to that.
He would be floored if she would consent to that. So you have David Axelrod, who's well entrenched in the Obama camp, saying he would be floored if Michelle Obama would consent to running. You have an unnamed senator here telling The Hill, a Democrat senator, that age is the issue, but we've kind of hitched our wagon to Joe Biden. And I quote, the general sense of folks is that we've hitched our wagon to Biden, that he's delivered a lot in partnership. It may not be Biden himself, but it's his team, right? And we're already into the primaries. Listen, I know a lot of people don't think Joe Biden's going to make it. And maybe they're deflecting. Maybe they're running a screen here of sorts. But David Axelrod says Michelle's not doing it. Unnamed Democrat senators telling The Hill, we're here with Biden. We've hitched our wagon to him. I hope it's Joe Biden. I really do. Keith and Smyrna, you're next on Super Talk. What's up, Keith?
Oh, yeah, thank you. It's my feeling that the Democrats knew 4 years ago that, they kind of pulled Joe Biden off the bench. I don't think they ever had any intention of him running another term. But certainly now that this announcement has been made that he's got some problems with his brain, I think it gives them a very comfortable, convenient way out, a way to replace him without making it appear that they're, cruel and hate old people or something like that. I think it works right into their playbook, actually.
I mean, I get where everybody's saying, but would you be who do you think it's going to be, and does it worry you that they would swap him out for someone?
I don't know who it would be. I don't understand why Clinton has not come back to say she's ready to claim what she thinks is rightfully hers.
Well, I mean, that one's easy because of the Epstein stuff. And
okay.
At least I think
Well,
it's easy.
Whoever they run, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Washington. Like they said on Fox News this morning, definitely Joe Biden is not making the decision. Someone is calling the shots other than him. So who's running the country? It's my question.
Yeah, we'll find out. Soon enough. I feel like this stuff is going to happen sooner rather than later. Thanks for the call, Keith. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
So there's been some reports. A member of the House Intelligence Committee, Chairman Mike Turner, issued an official statement today saying today the House Permanent Select Committee, and I don't mean to switch gears, but I saw this come across my desk, and now our boy, what's his name? The head of the NSA. Is it Kirby? It's Kirby. Is commenting on this. So Mike Turner, the House Intelligence Committee chairman out of Ohio, said today the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence has made available to members of Congress information concerning a serious national security threat. And he's requesting that President Biden declassify all information relating to this threat so Congress, the administration, and our allies can openly discuss the actions necessary to respond to this threat. So I was waiting to see what would happen. And during the press briefing, the NSA has somewhat responded to this.
That this administration has gone further and in more creative, more strategic ways dealt with the declassification of intelligence in the national interest of the United States than any administration in history. So you definitely are not going to find an unwillingness to do that when it's in our national security interest to do so. At the same time, we, of course, have to continue to prioritize and focus very much on the issue of sources and methods. We'll do that.
So he's asked, should the public be alarmed? And he says, basically, I don't know. I don't know what this threat is, but it's something that we're going to be covering if anything comes up, if anything is released. Chairman Mike Turner out of Ohio wants it released. I find it a little bit shocking that apparently members of Congress have this information, 538 of them, and nothing is leaked about it. Have you been seeing this as well?
Oh, yeah.
Any ideas?
No. Nuts.
Probably has nothing to do with our southern border, right? Being wide open.
Gosh, right? Yeah, why would it?
Why would it?
Chris, we're fine.
It's all fine. All right. It's 11:48 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We're going to check in with Matt Murphy next, see what we got coming up on the Murphy Show. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy's upset about warm beer and restaurant limits.
I was told that in the United States of America that it was our God-given right to go into a convenience store and grab ourselves a cold beer. Apparently not.
That's how we got JFK as president.
Apparently so. I'll make the connection at some point.
Bootlegging.
Oh, yeah.
Joe bootlegging, we'll be bootlegging cold beer.
Yeah, that's how we got NASCAR.
Yeah.
Alcohol.
All good things.
So the same representative that's proposing the cold beer legislation is also proposing legislation to limit alcohol sales in restaurants and bars. And the text that I read earlier today was that he wants to cut it off at 2 mixed drinks, 2 glasses of wine, or 3 beers, which actually doesn't make any sense because
that's science.
Right. The science doesn't make sense. So you would do 3-3-3.
I made the point to Mac, like in 6th grade health class, and I know that health classes have evolved since I've been in them. But when I was in 6th grade, yeah, when them evolved them with they. But I know that 1 equals 1,
right? You would think
2 plus 2 equals 5.
So the article that I read about this earlier today was that Representative Ron Gant wants to do this, and he wants to cut off at 2, 2, or 3 unless the patron demonstrates that they have a designated driver or an alternative means home.
How do you do that?
Well, the way I would do it was hold up my Uber app on my phone to the bartender and say, "Keep them coming, barkeep."
You're like, I need to check your pockets for keys, sir.
I mean, we feel like we're searching for a problem to create a solution for it, in as much as it is already illegal to drive drunk. Most reasonable law-abiding citizens want to limit the amount of drunk driving on our roadways.
Yep.
Have at it, boys. Check, whatever. I've given up. I used to argue against checkpoints. I don't argue against checkpoints anymore. I grew up a little bit and recognize, I understand that the law enforcement need a little authority here and there. But, I mean, it's just ridiculous.
You know what bugs me about checkpoints?
Checkpoints, but
that oftentimes they announce where they're going to be.
Yes, and I don't understand that at all.
That's the exact opposite of what a checkpoint is for.
I mean, I guess they're assuming that alcoholic drunk drivers aren't. They don't engage in forethought very much. I mean, they're not the most conscious. They're not like writing that down. So maybe they're working on that, but makes no sense.
We figured out exactly who is behind this bill earlier today.
Okay, who's behind the bill?
ICE lobbyists.
ICE lobbyists?
Big ICE.
Maybe. Ice as in what? Ice as in like natty ice? Ice as in
frozen water.
Oh. I was telling Belle, times have changed, and I'm not necessarily promoting that we go back to these olden times. But when I was a kid, my grandfather, quote unquote, did not drink, but we went to the package store every Friday afternoon when he got off work. And when we would go in, I would get a Coca-Cola, and he would get his little package, whatever's in that little brown bag, and they would all, "Cecil, do you need a cup of ice?" I remember hearing this every Friday afternoon. Do you need a cup of ice?
In St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands, that's where I got married, you can literally, if you fill up your tank of gas, you get a free beer at the gas station. You can drive and have an open container and drink a beer driving. Drunk driving is against the law.
Right. Which makes sense.
Yes.
Once again, just, you know what, enforce the laws that are on the books and leave me alone. Now, there's a personal reason why Representative Gant has decided to do this, and I'll get into it on the show. He had a very unfortunate situation happen to him a couple of years ago involving a drunk driving accident where he was left hospitalized, and I get that. I understand that it's personal for him, but, everything doesn't beg for a solution from the government.
It feels like more tax dollars being spent for more rules that are unenforceable and nobody benefits.
Makes no sense. I guess they have to justify their paltry salaries, I suppose.
Is that what they're doing?
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. Mark Green coming up on the show, 2:05. That's
Are you going to, what are you going to ask him?
Well, I'll ask him about this supposed national security threat that we're hearing about.
All right, cool.
And then immigration policy, obviously.
It's
and
Super
Mayorkas.
Talk, 99.7 WTN.